Nathan Hale owned everything money could deliver, except the one thing he needed most: hope. His twin girls, Aria and Lyra, lay motionless in their cribs, trapped inside bodies that refused commands, and throats that never shaped words. For 2.5 years, specialists promised nothing would improve. Then Maya Torres arrived, a housemaid with no medical credentials, but a hidden link to Nathan's late wife that nobody could have seen coming. What Nathan walked in on 3 weeks later inside the nursery would either shatter his family's reputation or prove that the most extraordinary miracles don't always come from laboratories. She was kneeling on the floor, whispering a vow to his daughters. And everything shifted. The mansion rose from the hills, like a tribute to everything wealth could purchase, and nothing it could mend. Nathan Hale's estate spread across 15 acres of sculpted lawn outside Boston, marble fountains tossing sunlight, gardens blooming in perfectly choreographed seasons. Inside, quiet pressed against the walls like a living presence, broken only by footsteps echoing on Italian tile and the low mechanical murmur of medical machines. Nathan sat in his study, staring through blueprints he wasn't really seeing. At 48, he looked older, gray streaking his dark hair. His late wife, Lila, smiled from a silver frame on his desk, frozen in a bright moment he could barely remember inhabiting. She had died delivering their daughters, and some days he wondered whether fate had taken the wrong parent. Aria and Lyra, too, now carried Lila's delicate features, and his eyes that seemed to look straight through him, without truly connecting. Eyes watching the world from bodies that refused to obey. The doctors had explained it with careful clinical calm. A rare neurological disorder, they'd said. Something in utero, when delicate wiring went wrong. The pathways between brain and muscle never formed correctly. The girls couldn't walk, couldn't direct their movements with real intention, and they couldn't speak. No real words, no meaningful sounds beyond small hums or thin whimpers. Nathan had hurled money at the problem, like a man throwing cash into bottomless water. Top neurologists flown in from Johns Hopkins, cutting-edge specialists from Switzerland, experimental protocols from research centers most families would never even learn existed. Nothing changed. The twins lay in customized cribs, staring at white ceilings, drooling faintly, their tiny bodies prisoners in cells no fortune could unlock. He stayed away from home whenever possible. His downtown office became sanctuary, and the children's hospitals he funded became penance. The Hale Foundation built pediatric wings and research labs, donating millions to children's medicine. Reporters called him a savior. If they only knew. Every ceremony felt like another monument to his failure. Mrs. Whitmore, the head housekeeper, knocked briskly on the study door. She was a stern woman in her 60s, all angles and starch, running the household like an impeccably disciplined regiment. Mr. Hale, the new maid, has arrived for her first day. Nathan glanced up. New maid? From the agency, she clarified. Maya Torres. Her tone carried a slight sniff of disapproval. She appears rather young and soft, if I may say so. He hadn't asked, but Mrs. Whitmore had opinions about everything. Fine, show her the routines. Of course, sir. She hesitated by the doorway. Will you be dining at home tonight? No, I've got a late board meeting. It wasn't true. His calendar was empty, but the thought of sitting alone at that long dining table, listening to the clink of his own silverware against silence, tightened his chest. Maya Torres stood at the servant's entrance, taking in the house with quiet oh. At 33, she had cleaned plenty of homes, but nothing like this. This wasn't a house. It was practically a museum. Crystal chandeliers scattered light everywhere, and the furniture looked like it belonged behind velvet ropes. Mrs. Whitmore appeared with a clipboard, skepticism already written on her face. You're the new girl. Yes, ma'am, Maya Torres. Miss Torres, our standards here are extremely high. Mr. Hale expects perfection. You'll handle the East Wing, main corridors, And the children's rooms. Maya nodded, trying to follow the list. The children. Mr. Hale's twin daughters. Mrs. Whitmore's voice flattened. They're severely disabled. Nurses and therapists manage their care. You're only to keep their spaces spotless. Don't touch the equipment. And don't interfere with any specialists. Something about her tone struck Maya as disturbingly cold, like the girls were inconvenient tasks rather than actual kids. How old are they? 2. They don't walk. Don't talk. A tragic situation, Mrs. Whitmore said, like she was describing a damaged piece of furniture. This way. They moved through corridors that went on forever, past rooms Maya glimpsed through half-open doors, a library with towering bookcases, a music room where a grand piano gathered dust, a sitting room that looked like no one had ever dared sit down. Everything gorgeous, everything empty. The nursery sat in the east wing behind double doors painted a soft cream. When Mrs. Whitmore pushed them open, Maya's breath caught. 2 cribs stood side by side before tall windows overlooking the gardens, afternoon light pouring in like gold. Between them, monitors blinked quietly. A changing table, a rocking chair, shelves stacked with toys that looked untouched. In the cribs, 2 tiny forms lay on their backs, staring upward. Arya's on the left, Lyra on the right, Mrs. Whitmore said. Their nurse will return shortly. Just clean around them. They hardly notice anything anyway. Maya barely heard her. She stepped near to the cribs, her heart doing something strange. The twins were stunning. Dark curls splayed over their pillows, skin like porcelain, eyes too big for their small faces. Arya's gaze drifted toward the window. Lyra hummed faintly, fingers twitching against her blanket. Without thinking, Maya knelt beside Lyra's crib until they were eye level. "Hey there, beautiful," she murmured. Lyra's humming stopped. Her eyes slowly tracked toward Maya's voice. "We're going to talk someday, little ladies," Maya whispered, glancing between them. "Even if everyone else says you can't." "Miss Torres," Mrs. Whitmore's voice sharpened. "We don't encourage unrealistic hope here. Please focus on your assigned tasks." Maya rose, cheeks flushing, but something inside her had shifted. She recognized that look, the intense focus in Lyra's eyes. She'd seen it in her mother's face after the stroke stole her speech. These girls weren't absent. They were trapped. Over the next few days, Maya learned the household's rhythm. Nathan left before sunrise and returned long after dark. Nurses and therapists came and went like clockwork, handling the twins with clinical efficiency, but almost no softness. Staff avoided the nursery unless forced. Maya heard that Lila Hale had died the day the twins were born, and that before her death she'd been a painter and pianist, full of color and movement. Now her memory haunted the house like perfume that refused to fade. Maya started humming while she worked. Not on purpose at first. Old songs her mother had crooned, gospel melodies and lullabies that felt like warmth turned into sound. She hummed while mopping the hall outside the nursery, dusting shelves in the playroom, folding tiny clothes with careful hands. And she noticed things. The way Arya's fingers tapped lightly on the crib rail whenever Maya hummed, the way Lyra's breathing matched the rhythm, small details anyone else might miss. One afternoon, she was reorganizing toys in the playroom, humming the same tune she'd repeated for days. Behind her came a soft clap. She turned. Lyra sat in her adaptive chair, small hands pressed together. Once, twice, the movement syncing with the beat of Maya's humming. Then Arya blinked twice in deliberate succession. Eyes locked on Maya's face. Maya's pulse pounded. She moved closer, keeping her voice calm. "Can you do that again, sweetheart? Can you clap for me?" She hummed 2 beats. Lyra's hands came together twice. Coordinated, intentional. Maya fumbled for her phone, hands shaking as she hit record. She hummed again and again. The twins responded, Arya with purposeful blinks, Lyra with claps that matched the rhythm. "What exactly are you doing?" The voice behind her snapped. Maya jumped. The lead nurse, Ms. Green, stood in the doorway, arms crossed. A woman in her 50s. She wore authority like a starched uniform. They were responding to, "You were interfering," Ms. Green cut in. "You're here to clean, not play therapist. These children follow very specific care plans created by licensed professionals. You are not part of that team. Do not disrupt their routine." "But they were responding," Maya insisted. "I have it on video. Spasms. Coincidence." Ms. Green's voice was cool. "I've been a pediatric nurse 25 years. I know the difference between communication and involuntary reflex. If I catch you confusing them again, I'll report you to Mr. Hale." Maya's face burned. "Yes, ma'am." That evening, as she gathered her things to leave, Nathan appeared in the corridor. She'd seen him in passing, but never this close. His expensive suit was rumpled, tie loosened, exhaustion written beneath his eyes. "Miss Torres," she stopped. "Yes, sir." "Ms. Green says you've been overstepping." The words hit like a slap. "Sir, I'm sorry, but I really believe your daughters—" "My daughters are under the care of experts," he cut in, voice flat. "Your duty is housekeeping, not diagnostics. I won't tolerate false hope about conditions that won't change." Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to show him the video, to make him see what she'd seen. But his expression stopped her. It wasn't anger, it was something worse. Surrender. The look of a man already emptied out. "Yes, sir, I understand." "Good. This is not a charity. Everyone has a clear role. Please remember yours." His footsteps echoed down the hallway as he walked away, leaving Maya feeling smaller than she had in a long time. That night, she sat in her tiny apartment, staring at a half-written resignation text on her phone. What was the point of staying where her instincts were dismissed as fantasy? But when she closed her eyes, she saw Lyra's clapping hands, Arya's deliberate blinks. Those weren't random. That was connection. Around midnight, she found herself back at the mansion. The night security guard recognized her and waved her through without question. The house felt different in the dark, less intimidating, almost honest. Shadows softened the edges of all that wealth. The music room drew her. She dusted the piano before, admired photographs on the walls. Lila at various ages, always near a piano. Lila as a teenager holding a trophy. Lila on her wedding day, head thrown back, laughing. Lila pregnant, glowing, hands resting on her belly. Maya brushed her fingers over the piano keys. Careful not to press. She noticed a narrow drawer in the bench and slid it open. Inside lay a worn leather journal, its pages filled with slanting, elegant handwriting. She knew she shouldn't read it. It was private, but her fingers opened it anyway. The first entries came from early pregnancy, excitement, fear, hope, then medical notes, test results, warnings, the diagnosis, the twins' condition, Lila's desperation to help them. On a page marked by a pressed flower, there were simple sketches of hands forming shapes. Beside each drawing, Lila had written tidy labels. "I love you," "hungry," "tired," "mama," American Sign Language. Maya's heart stopped. She flipped further. Lila had been teaching herself ASL, determined to teach it to her girls, to give them a voice even if their mouths never cooperated. The final entry, dated 2 days before she died, read like a prayer. "If they can't speak with their lips, we'll speak with our hands. My beautiful girls will talk to me. I know they will. I'll start the day they come home." But Lila never came home, and her plan died with her. Maya closed the journal gently, pressing it to her chest. She sat in the dark music room a long time, feeling Lila's determination like a whisper. A mother who had refused to see her children as broken before they were even born. As dawn streaked the windows, Maya made up her mind. She placed the journal back in the bench and walked to the nursery, where the twins still slept. "I'll finish what your mama started," she whispered, looking at their peaceful faces. "I swear it, whether your dad approves or not." That decision changed everything. Even though outwardly nothing looked different, Maya still arrived at 7 each morning, still wore the plain uniform, still carried her cleaning caddy through endless corridors. But now, every step carried a purpose beyond dust and polish. She spent the night after finding the journal glued to her laptop, blue light washing her tiny apartment until 3 a.m. She watched video after video about ASL, alternative communication for neurologically impaired children, and the relationship between rhythm, music, and brain development. Her own mother had taught her pieces of this before she died, before Maya dropped out of nursing school to become a full-time caregiver. She'd learned to communicate with a woman whose stroke stole her words, but not her understanding. Maya knew what it meant to be trapped inside your own body. During quiet moments, when nurses took breaks and therapists rotated elsewhere, Maya began with simple signs, basic concepts. She'd clean the nursery windows while sunlight poured in, fingers shaping the sign for sun over and over, saying the word aloud and pointing outside. Sun, she'd repeat. At first, the twins simply stared. Maya was patient. She had learned patience sitting beside her mother's bed, celebrating every tiny purposeful squeeze. She signed music before humming. Mama when she found photographs of Lila. Safe when repositioning them during scheduled turns. Nurses gave her curious looks but stayed busy with charts and checklists, barely registering what the maid's hands were doing. On day 10 of her secret lessons, something changed. She signed music before starting her favorite melody. Aria's fingers twitched, subtle but clearly attempting to mimic the shape. Her hand trembled as she tried to spread her fingers like Maya. Lyra's gaze followed every movement with fierce concentration. They were learning, but Maya wasn't the only one noticing. Mr. Sinclair, the butler, had served the Hales for 15 years. He prided himself on knowing everything that happened under this roof. Mysteries bothered him, especially those involving household staff. He noticed Maya spending longer stretches in the nursery, noticed the odd hand movements. He saw the way she held the girls differently from the nurses, with something dangerously close to affection. That made him distrustful. In his experience, people rarely did anything without an underlying motive. The gentle maid with patient eyes must be angling for something. Maybe she hoped to charm her way into Nathan's grief-stricken heart and vast fortune. Sinclair started keeping quiet notes, times, dates, observations, building a case for the moment he'd present everything to his employer. The thunderstorm rolled in on a Tuesday evening. Maya had stayed late, helping prep for an upcoming charity gala. The sky darkened throughout the afternoon until, by 8, rain hammered the windows like fists. She was straightening the nursery when the first thunderclap split the air. The lights flickered. Both girls startled. Lyra let out a thin, frightened cry. The night nurse had slipped away for her dinner break, leaving Maya alone. Another boom shook the house, louder this time. Aria whimpered. Lyra's cry pitched higher, edging toward panic. Maya moved quickly, lifting Lyra from her crib. She'd studied how the nurses held them, supporting limp muscles and fragile necks. "Shh, I've got you," she murmured, settling into the rocking chair with Lyra tucked against her chest. Lightning flared, turning the room white for a heartbeat. "You're safe, baby. You're safe." Maya shaped the sign for safe where Lyra could feel it against her body, crossing her wrists like a shield. "Safe," she said aloud. "Safe, I promise." Thunder rolled again. Lyra whimpered, then did something astonishing. Her small hands moved, trembling but deliberate, wrists crossing against Maya's arm. Safe. Lyra had signed safe. Tears blurred Maya's vision. "Yes, that's it," she whispered. "Safe." Then a sound slipped from Lyra's mouth, not a cry, but an attempt at a word. A soft, breathy, The door opened. Nathan stood there, rain-soaked, briefcase dangling from one hand. The storm and some instinct had dragged him home early. He froze, trying to absorb the scene. The maid in the rocking chair, tears streaming, his daughter in her arms making deliberate sounds. "What are you doing?" His voice came out harsh, defensive. Maya looked up, still cradling Lyra. "Sir, she signed safe, and she tried to say, 'Stop.'" He crossed the room in 3 long strides. "Give her to me." "Mr. Hale, please, if you just look. I said stop waving nonsense at my daughter." He lifted Lyra from Maya's arms. The child immediately burst into fresh sobs. "You're confusing them with your games, making them believe they can do things they cannot." But she did it, Maya insisted. Your girls are trying to talk to you. Out, he said softly. A final. Leave this room now. Maya rose on weak legs, swallowed her protest, then paused in the doorway. Your wife knew, she said quietly. She knew they'd be able to communicate. She was planning to teach them. Nathan's face drained of color. What? Ask yourself why hope scares you so much, Mr. Hale. Ask who that fear really protects. She left before he could answer. The next morning, Dr. Adler made his routine visit. He'd followed the twins' case since birth, a kind neurologist in his 60s, accustomed to delivering bad news. He ran the usual exams, checking reflexes, muscle tone, visual tracking, response to touch. No real change, he told Nathan in the study afterward. No decline, which is positive, but no notable progress either. I'm sorry. The maid says they're communicating, Nathan admitted hesitantly. She claims they're responding to sign language. That one tried to speak. Nathan, we've discussed this, Dr. Adler replied delicately. Caregivers sometimes grow attached and interpret random movement as meaningful. It's a form of wishful pattern seeking, very human, completely understandable. She sounded certain. Involuntary mimicry can look like communication, the doctor said. Children might move randomly while someone gestures nearby, and coincidence feels like cause and effect. I know how desperately you want progress, but false hope can cut deeper than acceptance. Nathan nodded slowly. That night, he called Maya into his study. She stood before his desk, hands clasped behind her back, bracing herself. He looked worn, like he'd aged a decade in a week. Dr. Adler was here, he began. Yes, sir. He explained that what you believe you're seeing is probably random. Coincidence. Nathan's voice stayed calm but firm. I appreciate your compassion, Miss Torres, but I need you to stop these sign language experiments. They're not helping. With respect, sir, how can you know they aren't helping if you've hardly tried? His jaw tightened. Because every specialist I've consulted agrees. My girls have severe, permanent limitations. Spinning fantasies of them signing or speaking only makes reality more brutal when it doesn't happen. What if reality isn't what they think? Maya asked. Then it would have looked different sometime in the last 2 years, he snapped, turning toward the window. I've learned to accept what is, Miss Torres. I suggest you do the same. No more signing, no more special sessions, or I'll replace you. Maya left with her throat burning and eyes stinging. She wanted to shake him, force him to see how much he was risking by clinging to despair. But she recognized that fear too. She'd seen it in families at the hospital and reflected in her own eyes while her mother faded. Hope was terrifying because it could break you more savagely than grief. Still, that night she couldn't stay away. After the house settled into sleep, she slipped back through dim halls to the nursery, moving like a shadow. She sat cross-legged on the floor between the cribs, close enough to see the twins' faces in the nightlight. Glow! I won't give up on you, she whispered. I promise. She began humming a spiritual her mother loved, hands shaping signs in the soft air. Sun, music, mama, safe. The melody drifted through the quiet room, her fingers painting, meaning. Lyra's eyes opened first, then Arya's. In the faint light, both girls watched her with an awareness that felt impossible for children locked away by doctors' definitions. Then Lyra hummed. Not her usual aimless noise, she hummed the melody Maya sang, matching the rise and fall imperfectly, but clearly. Maya's hands stilled. Oh my God, she breathed. Arya opened her mouth, forcing out a thin sound shaped like a beginning. Say it again, Maya whispered, leaning close. Please, sweetheart, try again. Ma. The syllable cracked the silence like lightning. Maya grabbed her phone, thumbs fumbling as she hit record. She hummed. Lyra echoed. She signed Mama. Arya's hands twitched, trying to mimic the gesture. She captured everything, tears streaming. But even as she recorded, dread crept in. What would Nathan do if he saw this? Accuse her of manipulating his daughters, fire her before the girls could reveal their progress. She saved the video, but didn't send it. Not yet. It felt too fragile, too sacred. Sitting alone in the dark nursery with impossible proof in her palm, Maya decided she would keep teaching in secret, slipping into the nursery after midnight to speak in the language Lila had prepared. If Nathan Hale wouldn't give them a chance, Maya would. What she didn't realize was that across the hallway, Nathan lay awake in his bedroom. He heard humming, soft but unmistakable, and beneath it, sounds he couldn't bear to interpret, sounds that might have been his daughter's voices attempting forbidden words. He shoved a pillow over his head, blocking it out, because if it was real, it meant he'd been wrong. It meant he'd surrendered when he shouldn't have. It meant the maid he'd chastised had seen something in his children he'd been too broken to notice. And that realization was more painful than any storm. The changes started subtle, then came rushing. Within 3 weeks of Maya's midnight lessons, the mansion's silence began to fracture. The oppressive quiet that had hung there for 2 years gave way to small, startling sounds that made staff pause mid-task, glancing down hallways with uneasy wonder. Laughter, dry, rusty, but unmistakably latter. It first happened on a Tuesday morning. A day nurse was shifting Arya when she dropped a rubber toy. It bounced and squeaked, and Arya's mouth opened. The choppy giggle that tumbled out was brief, but absolutely real. By afternoon, whispers moved through the house. The twins were making new sounds, not only random humming, but responses. When music played in the therapy room, Lyra clapped her hands, offbeat but purposeful. During physical therapy, Arya tapped patterns on the mat, almost rhythmic. Sometimes, when no one watched too closely, the twins crawled. Not gracefully, not far, but they pulled themselves toward interesting noises, the jingle of keys, a scraped chair, distant piano notes from the unused music room. The staff noticed, but fear kept most quiet. Fear of misreading, fear of false hope, fear of Nathan's reaction to any report that might later prove wrong. Only Rosa, the cook, spoke openly. "Those babies are waking up," she said firmly one afternoon in the kitchen. "Something, whoever, is calling them back." Not everyone saw a blessing. Resentment simmered among some employees. Conversations grew hushed when Maya stepped into rooms. "She's doing something unnatural," one maid muttered. "My grandmother warned me about people with strange gifts. Maybe she's after the money." Another whispered, "Play the long game, make herself indispensable, then marry the boss." The rumors multiplied in the dark. Maya felt the weight of their suspicion in every sideways glance. Mr. Sinclair watched her more closely than ever, disapproval etched in his posture. She said nothing. Let them talk. All that mattered were Arya and Lyra. The real breakthrough ambushed everyone. Nathan was hosting a potential investor, guiding him through the mansion's art gallery. They were in the East Wing when sounds drifted from the nearby playroom, children's music, and thin voices trying to sing along. The investor, Victor Shaw, stopped. "I didn't realize there were other kids here," he remarked. "There aren't," Nathan replied automatically, but the voices continued. He walked fast toward the playroom, Victor trailing. When Nathan opened the door, the sight inside stole his breath. Maya sat on the floor with both twins. A children's video played on a tablet, bright graphics and simple songs. The girls were responding. Arya's mouth moved, shaping approximate words. Lyra clapped on beat more often than not. When Maya signed along, both twins tried to copy. "Incredible," Victor murmured. "I thought you said they were profoundly disabled." "They are," Nathan said, his voice strained. "They don't look disabled," Victor replied softly. "They look like they're learning." Maya finally noticed them in the doorway, scrambling to her feet. Nathan's face had gone chalky, jaw tight. "Mr. Hale, I can explain? My office. Now." He turned to Victor with a strained smile. "Please excuse me. Something requires my attention. My assistant will see you out." 5 minutes later, Maya stood in front of his desk, while Nathan paced like a trapped animal. "What were you doing?" he demanded. "Teaching them," she answered. "Because they're learning. If you'd just look." "I told you to stop," he snapped. "I specifically ordered you to stop filling their heads with fantasies." It isn't fantasy, she shot back. They're communicating, they're laughing. Arya crawled yesterday toward the music. Lyra can sign 6 words now. Coincidence, reflexes, you're lying to yourself. The words slipped out before she could stop them. No, you're lying to yourself, Maya said. You know what you saw. You know it was real. Nathan's palm slammed against the desk. You are staff, he hissed. You are a maid in my home. You don't tell me what I know about my own children. Then maybe you don't know them at all, she replied quietly. The air crackled between them. Nathan's face flushed with anger and raw fear. Pack your things, he said at last. You're fired. Maya's stomach plummeted. Sir, please. I won't allow my daughters to become experiments for someone with no license and delusions of grandeur. Leave this house. She wanted to fight, to beg him to see the truth, but his expression was granite. He'd made his choice, the same one he'd been making since their birth, protecting himself from hope. Upstairs, as if sensing abandonment, both girls began to wail. That evening, Nathan called Dr. Adler in a panic. When the doctor arrived, Nathan led him straight to the nursery. The twins lay in their cribs, faces blotchy from tears. Examine them, Nathan insisted. Tell me what's different. Dr. Adler ran his tests again, but his expression gradually changed. Lyra followed a toy with her eyes more precisely than before. Arya's fingers curled around his hand and squeezed with conscious strength. He listened to their sounds, no longer random, almost conversational. Back in the study, the doctor looked troubled. Nathan, I need to be candid. Something has changed. Changed how? Their motor coordination, their engagement. I'm seeing purposeful responses that weren't there 3 months ago. Their latest scans show activity in regions we considered dormant. What's triggering IT? Nathan asked. I don't know yet, but whatever it is, it seems to be stimulating new neural pathways. At their age, the brain is incredibly plastic, rare, but not impossible. Nathan exhaled. The maid has been teaching them sign language, against my orders. Has it been working? Dr. Adler asked. I don't know. I can't tell what's real and what I'm desperate to see. Nathan, the doctor said gently, whether it's the signing, the emotional engagement, or something else, if there's a catalyst helping their brains rewire, we must identify it and continue. But she's just a maid. The parents who pioneered music therapy for autism weren't clinicians, Adler replied. The woman who fashioned the first kangaroo care wraps for preemies wasn't either. Sometimes meaningful breakthroughs begin with people who simply pay attention. After Dr. Adler left, Nathan climbed to the nursery. The night nurse had settled the girls, but they still fussed softly. He stopped in the doorway, watching in the low light. When was the last time he truly looked at them, not as diagnoses, but as his daughters? Arya had Lila's nose. Lyra had his stubborn chin. 2 full human beings, trapped until recently. Until Maya. He moved closer to the cribs. Arya's eyes locked onto him, and the recognition in her expression cracked something inside his chest. He tried to remember Maya's hands, the shapes she'd made. His fingers felt huge and clumsy as he attempted one of the signs, not even sure what it meant. Lyra's eyes widened. Her small hands lifted, trembling, trying to copy him. The sound formed in her throat. Da-dad. Nathan nearly collapsed. He grabbed the crib rail for support. What did you say? Da-da. Clearer this time, a real word. Arya's mouth opened. Da-da. Imperfect, strained, but language. His children were calling for him. He'd spent 2 years shielding himself from disappointment and almost missed a miracle. With shaking hands, he pulled out his phone and dialed. The call rang 4 times before Maya answered, wary. Hello? Where are you? He asked. Packing, she said. You fired me, remember? Don't pack. Come back, he said, the words tumbling. Please. They just said da-day. I don't know what I'm doing. You do. Please come back. Silence stretched. Then she whispered, I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Maya arrived, Nathan was still on the nursery floor between the cribs. She'd never seen him look so lost. Show me, he said simply. Show me everything you've been doing. The next morning, he convened an emergency board meeting at Hale Neurodynamics. 8 men and 2 women gathered around the glossy table, wearing matching masks of mild concern. Nathan rarely called urgent meetings. When he did, they usually involved billions. "What's going on?" asked Leonard Price, the board chair. "Your assistant said this couldn't wait." Nathan stood at the head of the table, feeling like a man about to jump. "I need to address something before rumors damage us further," he began. "It concerns my daughters." "We've heard whispers," admitted Dana Kim, the CFO. "Something about a miracle maid." The phrase made Nathan flinch. "Her name is Maya Torres," he said. "She's been working with Aria and Lyra using sign language, music, and emotional connection. Their progress has been extraordinary." "How extraordinary?" Leonard asked cautiously. "They're beginning to talk, to move with intention, to engage with their environment in ways our doctors said would never happen." The board exchanged unsettled glances. Dana spoke first. "That's amazing. But why is this a crisis?" "Because people are talking," Nathan said. "And when they talk about me, they talk about this company. Hale Neurodynamics is built on credibility, on science. Now the story is that my profoundly disabled daughters are being healed by a housemaid while our specialists failed." Comprehension dawned around the table. "It makes us look incompetent," Dana said slowly. "Or fraudulent," added Aaron Lewis, head of PR. "If a maid achieves what our neurologists couldn't, what does that suggest about our technology?" He slid his tablet forward, showing sensational headlines already brewing. "Billionaire's miracle twins," Nathan read. "Housekeeper succeeds where high-tech medicine failed. Love cures what science couldn't." Every headline made the company look like a punchline. At 7 that Thursday morning, a video hit the internet. Nathan was sipping coffee when his phone exploded with notifications. Calls, texts, emails poured in non-stop. Rosa glanced up from the stove. "Everything okay, Mr. Hale?" He stared at his screen, watching footage he didn't remember anyone recording. It showed the nursery 2 days earlier. The clip showed Maya kneeling between both twins, right where the rugs met. Lyra stretched toward her with shaking fingers, Aria's mouth shaping effortful sounds. Then, as clear as bells, both girls said it together. "Ma, ma." The video cut to them collapsing into Maya's arms, her tears obvious even through pixelation, their tiny voices repeating the word like a chant. The caption blared, "Billionaire's paralyzed daughters say mama," after doctors swore they'd never speak. "Oh, no," Nathan whispered. Within an hour, the video had 50,000 views. By noon, 2 million. News vans clogged the road outside the estate. His phone became a buzzing brick, overwhelmed by calls. His assistant phoned from downtown. Panicked. "Sir, media requests are insane. CNN, Good Morning America, national talk shows. Everyone wants interviews about the twins and Macy's." Nathan found Maya in the playroom, sitting away from the windows. She'd seen the satellite trucks, too. The girls played on the rug between them, blissfully unaware that their progress had detonated online. "Did you know anyone was filming?" Nathan asked. "No," she said tightly. "I never wanted this. They're not miracles for public consumption. They're just kids." "I know." He lowered himself beside her, watching Aria stack blocks while Lyra signed more again and again. "PR wants interviews, spin, branding, control." He motioned toward the muffled shouting outside. "I just want to shield them. I don't know how." Neither of them knew the clip had been posted by one of the younger night nurses, a woman named Emily Rhodes. She'd thought she was celebrating something beautiful. She'd filmed the moment, added a heart-filled caption, and hit upload without imagining the fallout. By evening, donations flooded into the Elena Grace Foundation. Strangers sent money with messages like, "For the miracle nanny," and "Use this to help other kids like Aria and Lyra, because love obviously matters more than machines." Hundreds of thousands arrived in a single day. But praise came laced with venom. Maya's dusty social media accounts exploded. Some messages glowed with support. Many dripped cruelty. "She's exploiting those babies for attention. Bet she's hurting them to fake progress. Why is some maid getting credit instead of doctors? Classic gold digger move. Snag a grieving billionaire." After a dozen comments, she stopped reading. Nathan's security team urged her to stay completely offline and strongly suggested she not leave the estate. A few messages slid from hateful into outright threatening. Meanwhile, Nathan watched his daughters thrive while the world argued about whether their progress was real. Physical therapists clashed on forums about neuroplasticity. Doctors wrote think pieces on placebo, caregiver bias, and wishful thinking. Disability advocates split into bitter factions. Some celebrated the twins' gains. Others raged at the implication that disabled kids needed fixing to be worthy. The storm slammed Nathan's company hard. Hale Neurodynamics stock fell 12% in 2 days. Nervous investors began calling, wondering if their technology was a sham. Leonard Price scheduled another emergency board meeting. This time, Nathan joined by video from the estate, unwilling to fight past reporters. "This is turning into a catastrophe," Leonard started. "Hospitals are questioning us. 3 major clients have delayed equipment orders. Donations to the foundation are UP," Nathan countered, "hundreds of thousands in 48 hours. "Guilt money," snapped Aaron Lewis, head of PR. "They think your housekeeper pulled off a miracle, which makes our science look pointless. Do you get what that does to our brand?" Dana Kim's voice was softer but equally worried. "The board's discussed options. We believe you should step aside as CEO for a while. Let someone else steady the company while you focus on your family situation." "You're pushing me out," Nathan said. "We're protecting the company," Leonard insisted. "And honestly, you're the headline now. Widower, billionaire, disabled daughters, miracle maid. It's emotion overload. Business needs distance." Nathan studied these faces he'd worked with for years, people he'd once called friends. Now they watched him like a problem to solve. "I'll think about IT," he said, and killed the call. That night, he found Maya in the library, staring past an unopened book toward the glow of news vans at the gate. "They want me to step down," he said, pouring a drink he didn't really want. "Will you?" she asked. "I don't know. Everything I built is unraveling because my daughter said, 'Mama.'" He gave a short, bitter laugh. "How ridiculous is that?" "Not ridiculous," she said. "Just proof people worship the wrong things. Your company sells devices. Aria and Lyra didn't need devices. They needed someone to pay attention, to stay, to love them. That doesn't come with a sales pitch, so it scares people." "You sound like Lila," he blurted. She always said the simplest care was often the best medicine. She was right, Maya answered. They sat in a small, fragile silence until Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced down, color draining from her face. "What is it?" Nathan asked. "An email from a reporter," she said. Her hands shook as she read. "He's threatening to publish a story about my past, dropping out of nursing school, unpaid medical bills for my mom, framing it like I lied about everything." Nathan took the phone. The message was polite but sharp. The journalist Daniel Mercer from an investigative site had collected records, transcripts, proof Maya never finished her nursing degree. "I never lied," she whispered. "I told Mrs. Whitmore I'd studied nursing but didn't complete it. This makes it sound like fraud." "It's not fraud," Nathan said. "It's your life." His jaw clenched. "Who is he again?" "Daniel Mercer," she repeated. Nathan knew the name. Mercer specialized in takedowns, piecing together selective truths into devastating hit jobs. If he published, every online rumor would feel confirmed. The foundation would look like a con. Maya would be painted as a scammer. The twins' progress would be dismissed as staged or imaginary. "I'll fix this," Nathan said. "How?" "I don't know yet, but I will." The article went live 2 days later anyway, despite his lawyers firing off cease and desist letters. The headline screamed, "Miracle Maid's Hidden History, Desperation or Calculation." It detailed her unfinished education, her mother's death, the crushing medical debt. It quoted unnamed friends calling her manipulative and ambitious. It implied she'd targeted the Hale estate on purpose, orchestrated the twins' progress to secure her own future. The internet exploded again. Half the comments demanded she be arrested, half defended her passionately. Parents of disabled kids flooded feeds with videos describing how their own children had responded to similar sign and music methods. Nurses and therapists fought about unconventional approaches. The foundation's phones rang, non-stop. Some people donating in solidarity, others demanding refunds. Maya stopped coming to the house. She called Nathan from her tiny apartment, voice empty. I can't keep dragging your family through this. Every day I'm there, I paint a bigger target on all of you. The girls don't need that stress, neither do you. You can't quit, he said. I already did, she replied. I emailed my resignation to Mrs. Whitmore this morning. Maya, take care of them, Nathan. Keep signing. Keep talking. They're stronger than anyone realizes. They'll be okay. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry for the chaos. She hung up before he could answer. That evening, the twins felt the absence. They kept signing MA and scanning the doorway, confusion clouding their faces. Arya started crying, a thin wail that sliced through Nathan. Lyra rocked herself, humming anxiously. She'll be back, he told them, though he didn't know if it was true. She'll come back. Lyra stared at him with Lila's eyes, signed May again, then forced her mouth to shape 3 halting words. Ma, come back. It was the longest sentence she'd ever managed, and she spent it on Maya. Nathan grabbed his phone and started making calls. By the next morning, a courier dropped off a thick envelope of nursing home records that would redraw everything he thought he knew. He'd pushed his legal team all night, calling in favors to unearth old files. In his study, he opened them with trembling hands. Margaret Wilson, Maya's mother, had worked at Greenridge Care Center from 2020 to 2023. One of her primary patients, Lila Hale. Care logs showed Margaret assigned to Lila during those final weeks. Page after page recorded their long conversations. Margaret had been present for talks about the twins' diagnosis, about Lila's fear and hope, about the plan to teach them sign language. A photo slid from the stack, Lila in a wheelchair, Margaret beside her, both smiling. On Lila's lap sat a book on ASL. Nathan's chest tightened. This wasn't random. The line between their families had existed all along, hidden in dusty files. Margaret had absorbed Lila's plans. When she died, her daughter carried them forward. Nathan dialed Maya's number. It rang 6 times before she answered. Wary. Mr. Hale? You told me your mom once cared for a woman named Alina, he said. Silence, then softly. Yes. Why didn't you say it was Lila Hale? Because it would sound like I engineered this, she said, voice shaking. Like I hunted you down. I didn't. I had no idea this was your house until the agency sent me. Yeah, I didn't even know your last name. My mom only ever called her Lila. How much did she tell you? Nathan asked. Everything, Maya said. About the diagnosis, how Lila studied every alternative she could find, how she learned signs, clung to hope. Maya inhaled unsteadily. My mom died 2 weeks after Lila. Her last request was that if I ever found kids who needed what Lila wanted to give, I'd use it. She said their dream shouldn't die just because they did. Nathan closed his eyes. 2 women gone, both fighting for children they feared might be forgotten. Their daughters had crossed paths by so-called coincidence. I'm coming to get you, he said. Nathan, call me Nathan, and you're coming back. As what? She whispered. As the person my daughters trust most, not as staff, as family. Whatever this becomes, we face it together. The press will tear us apart, she warned. Let them try, he said, and hung up to call his PR team. Schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning, he told them. I'm making a statement. The next day, cameras and microphones crowded the driveway. Reporters pressed against barricades, shouting questions. Nathan stepped to the podium, pulse racing, but his voice stayed steady. I want to tell you a story, he began, and the noise died. About 2 women who never met but were bound by love. My wife, Lila, who spent her last weeks learning sign language for our daughters, and Margaret Wilson, who held her hand. He laid out the connection, the nursing home, the shared lessons, Margaret's promise to continue Lila's dream. How Maya had walked into his home unaware of any of it, yet still carried that promise forward. The journalist who questioned her credentials got one thing right, he continued. She's not a licensed nurse. She's something rarer. She's the living echo of a promise made by 2 dying women, proof that love doesn't vanish when people do. It just finds new hands. He held up the photo of Lila and Margaret. Cameras went wild. Call it a miracle if you want, he said. But the miracle isn't that my daughters are learning to communicate. The miracle is that Maya refused to stop trying when everyone else had surrendered. The reporters erupted with questions, but he raised a hand. No questions, just one announcement, Nathan said. I'm formally resigning as CEO of Hale Neurodynamics. I'm transferring full control of the Elena Grace Foundation to a trust jointly managed by myself and Maya Torres. I'm devoting the rest of my life to proving something simple, that the best medicine for broken bodies often comes from hearts that never break on them. He stepped away, walked through the shouting crowd, and climbed into his car. 20 minutes later, he parked outside Maya's building, where she waited on the steps, overnight bag at her feet. When she saw him, tears spilled over. "You didn't have to sacrifice everything," she said. "Yes, I did," he answered, picking up her bag. "Come on, our girls are waiting." The drive back was quiet, comfortable. Two people who'd survived the same fire heading home together. At the door, Mrs. Whitmore met them, for once looking almost gentle. "The girls have been signing for her all morning," she said. "Won't focus on anything else." They climbed the stairs. When Nathan opened the nursery door, both twins turned. The second they saw Maya, their faces lit like sunrise. "Ma!" Lyra shouted. "Ma!" Arya echoed. Maya dropped to her knees. Both girls scrambled toward her as fast as their unsteady bodies allowed, crashing into her arms in a laughing tangle. Arya pressed her face into Maya's neck. Lyra patted Maya's cheek, signing stay again and again with frantic little hands. "I'm staying," Maya promised, voice breaking. "I'm not leaving you again." Nathan watched from the doorway, thinking of Lila's stubborn faith in their daughters' futures. He wondered if she'd somehow known this might happen, that another woman would carry her dream. That night, after the twins finally slept, Nathan found Maya in the library, staring at the photo of Margaret and Lila. Her fingers traced her mother's smile. "I miss her," she said. "I miss Lila," he replied. "But I think they'd both be thrilled right now, seeing us refuse to quit." "Your board must hate you," she said. "Probably," he answered, shrugging. "I don't care. I spent years trying to buy my way out of failure. Hospitals, research, plaques with my name." He smiled faintly. "You showed me real healing isn't something you purchase. You just show up, over and over." "I didn't teach you that," she said. "Arya and Lyra did." "No," he replied softly. "You taught me how to hear them." His voice lowered. "You gave me my family back. I can't repay that." "You don't repay love," she said. "You just pass it on." The word love hung between them. They weren't in love yet, not fully, but they loved these girls. This life. Upstairs, Lyra murmured in her sleep, "Da," and in the other crib, Arya answered, "Ma." 2 words, 2 people, 1 family that had been broken and was somehow knitting itself together. The next day, Nathan started legal paperwork naming Maya as co-guardian alongside him. Not a nanny, not staff. Family. The headlines labeled it reckless. Commentators warned he was moving too fast, letting emotion override reason. But when Arya took 3 unsupported steps and toppled into Maya's arms while Nathan laughed, he knew exactly what he was doing. The world could judge, speculate, and argue about whether this was miracle or method, luck or love. He didn't care. His girls were talking, moving, existing in ways no scan had predicted, and the woman who woke them stood beside him, steady as bedrock. The foundation's work continued. Therapies were documented, studied, refined. They partnered with researchers across the country, but all that remained secondary to the sound that mattered most, laughter echoing down halls that once held only the hum of machines. Tiny hands flashed signs in living rooms and therapy rooms. 2 little girls who were supposed to be silent called out for the people who refused to give up. "Ma, da, more play." 4 small words that rewrote every prediction. 3 weeks after Nathan's big press conference, new trouble hit on a Monday. Maya woke in the guest suite that was now her room, the view spilling over the gardens. Morning light turning everything warm, and felt her phone vibrating like it was trying to escape. She blinked sleep away and opened her notifications. A headline screamed from every feed. "Miracle Caregiver's Real Story. desperation, or calculation. Another expose, this time digging deeper, twisting old facts into something sordid. Her stomach lurched as she scrolled. They dug up unpaid hospital bills from her mother's last month's debt collector letters, the crowdfunding page that had barely raised $200 before she shut it down in humiliation. The article portrayed a drowning woman manipulating tragedy for a lifeline. It quoted sources claiming she'd always been calculating, that she'd targeted the Hale estate on purpose, that the twins' progress was exaggerated or staged. Every truthful detail from her past had been arranged to tell the ugliest possible story. By breakfast, everyone had seen it. Nathan found her at the kitchen table, staring at untouched coffee while Rosa hovered nearby. "You saw the article," he said. "The whole world saw," Maya replied dully. "The foundation site crashed. Too many people demanding answers." Nathan's jaw tightened. "My lawyers are already responding." "It won't matter," she said. "People decided what they want to believe. They see a con artist using sick kids. You should distance yourself. Say I fooled you like everyone else." "Absolutely not," Nathan said. "Richard," she started, then corrected herself. "Nathan." "No," he repeated. "I know you. I've watched you with Arya and Lyra. I've seen you panic when they seize and sob when they succeed. You can't fake that kind of love. Sponsors don't see that," she whispered. "They just see headlines. They're already pulling support." She was right. By noon, 3 major donors had withdrawn. The remaining advisory board for the foundation rushed into a conference call. Dana delivered the numbers. Voice heavy. "We're bleeding credibility," she said. "The foundation's image is tied directly to Maya's, and right now her name is radioactive." "Then we rebuild her reputation," Nathan snapped. "With what?" Aaron broke in. "We've lost half our funding today. More will bail tomorrow. Centers we planned are on hold. Training programs canceled. Everything we've worked for is collapsing because you gambled on the wrong person." Nathan's grip tightened on the phone. "I didn't gamble on the wrong person," he said. "I'm looking at the right one." He ended the call. That afternoon, Maya began packing, not because he asked, but because she couldn't watch his life burn for her sake. As she folded clothes, soft voices echoed from the doorway. "Ma, go!" She turned to see both girls standing, braced against the doorframe, their legs wobbly but holding. Arya's face scrunched with worry. Lyra's hands flew through a familiar shape, signing stay over and over with growing urgency. "Oh, sweethearts," Maya whispered, dropping to her knees. They stumbled toward her, colliding with her in a heap. "I'm not leaving because I want to. I'm leaving because staying hurts your dad." "No," Arya said, clearer than ever. "No, go." Lyra pulled back, eyes burning with intensity, then shaped a full sentence with her hands. "We need you." 4 signs that simultaneously shattered and mended Maya's heart. She hugged them tighter, breathing in their warm, familiar scent. Nathan appeared in the doorway, having followed the girls. He took in the half-packed suitcase, the crying trio on the floor. "They're right," he said quietly. "We do need you. The foundation can be rebuilt. You can't be replaced." He dropped to the floor beside them. "I lost Lila. I nearly lost these girls by giving up. I'm not losing you because some journalist chose clicks over truth." "You'll lose everything else," she warned. "Then I'll lose it," he said. "But I'll lose it fighting for what matters." That night, after the twins finally drifted off, Nathan did something he hadn't done since Lila died. He played the piano. His fingers stumbled at first, then settled into one of Lila's favorite pieces, a melody that had always sounded like comfort made audible. Drawn by the music, Maya appeared in the doorway and watched silently. When he finished, the quiet felt gentle rather than heavy. "She used to play that when she was upset," he said. Said music was the only language that never lied. "It's beautiful," Maya replied. "She was," he said simply. "And she'd be furious if she saw me backing down now." She hated quitters. "I'm not asking you to quit," Maya said. "I'm asking you not to throw everything away. Playing it safe would have meant sending the girls overseas. Firing you the second you disobeyed," Nathan said. "Listening to every expert who told me they'd never change. Thank God I stopped being smart and started being present." Thunder rumbled outside, rain soon pounding the windows. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. The house plunged into darkness. "Breaker probably tripped," Nathan said. "I'll check." They moved through dim corridors with phone flashlights. Before they reached the basement, frightened cries echoed from upstairs. "The twins!" They hurried back to the nursery. Both girls sat upright, eyes wide, calling "Ma, Da." Maya grabbed candles while Nathan scooped up Lyra. Candlelight turned the room warm and flickering, the storm raging just beyond the glass. Maya settled into the rocking chair with Arya in her lap. Nathan sat on the floor holding Lyra. "It's okay," Maya murmured, signing as she soothed. "Safe, we're here." Lyra watched her hands, then copied. "Safe." Arya curled against Maya's chest, tiny fingers curling around hers. "Ma, stay," she mumbled. "Yes, baby, Ma stays," Maya whispered. Nathan watched, realizing the blackout had stripped away every distraction. No headlines, no investors, just this. 2 kids, 1 storm, and the 4 of them. "Tell me about your mom," he said quietly. Maya looked up, startled. "Why?" "Because she's part of this," he said. "And I want to know." So she told him about Margaret, who cleaned houses before becoming a caregiver, who sang gospel while she worked. A woman who believed every person deserved respect, no matter how fragile their body, who held Lila's hand and memorized every word about the twins, about the plan, about the hope that refused to die. "She made me promise," Maya said. "If I ever found kids who needed what Lila had planned, I'd do it. She said some promises outlive the people who make them." "She was right," Nathan murmured. He shifted Lyra as the little girl's eyes drooped. "Lila made me promise something too. She told me to love them exactly as they were. No conditions, no benchmarks. I didn't keep that promise. Not until you forced me to." He managed a rueful smile. "I kept waiting for them to become someone else before loving them. You showed me they were already enough. I was the one who needed to change." The storm howled for another hour, then drifted away. Power clicked back on, lights humming to life, but they stayed in the candlelit nursery, reluctant to break the tender bubble. By the time they laid the girls back into their cribs, something between them had shifted permanently. The careful lines of employer and employee were gone. They'd become genuine partners, co-parents in all but name. Days later, Nathan called another press conference, and this time, Maya stood beside him. Reporters hurled questions before they reached the microphones. Did she lie about her credentials? Are you romantically involved? Is this all a publicity stunt? Nathan waited, then simply started talking. 6 months ago, I'd accepted that my daughters would never leave their cribs, he said. I built hospitals, funded research, hoping to create miracles for other families because I couldn't find one for my own. He glanced at Maya. Then this woman walked in, a woman who gave up her own dreams to care for her dying mother, someone who knew what it meant to love a person trapped in their body, someone who refused to accept that my daughters were hopeless. He held up his phone, playing a video on the giant screen behind them. Arya and Lyra walking hand in hand. Their steps were clumsy, but they were walking. They chatted in toddler words and signs, giggling. This is what she helped them do, Nathan said. Not with degrees or expensive devices, with patience, with love, with knowledge passed down from my wife to her mother to her. You call her debts proof of fraud, he went on. I call them evidence she sacrificed everything for family. You say she's unqualified. I say the results speak louder than any diploma. Maya swallowed hard as he continued. Yes, she's staying. Yes, she and I co-run the foundation. And yes, I trust her completely. Not because I'm naive, but because I finally stopped ignoring what was right in front of me. He stared straight into the cameras. If you want to attack her, you go through me. And I'm done being quiet. Reporters shouted new questions, but Nathan took Maya's hand and walked away. Later that night, he found an old envelope on his desk, yellowed, sealed with wax. Mrs. Whitmore had discovered it in a box labeled later among Lila's belongings. His hand shook as he broke the seal. Lila's handwriting flowed across the page. My darling Nathan, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone. But our girls are there, and I need you to hear me one last time. She wrote that the twins would speak when they were loved without conditions, not when they improved, not when they proved themselves, that he'd want to fix them, reshape them, but that what they needed was his presence, not his guilt. If you can't do it alone, the letter read, find someone who can teach you, someone who knows broken doesn't mean worthless. At the bottom, a postscript, if they ever call another woman mama, don't be jealous. Be grateful. It means they are loved. Nathan set the letter down and finally cried, not the angry tears from the funeral, not the frustrated tears from failed therapies, but a flood of grief and release and forgiveness. When he looked up, Maya stood in the doorway, eyes wet. How long have you been there? He asked. Long enough, she said, stepping inside. She knew. Somehow she knew. He passed her the letter. Read the end. Maya's breath hitched at the postscript. She gave us permission, she whispered. Before any of this, she told you it was okay. We're not replacing her, Nathan said. We're continuing her. There's a difference. Maya's voice trembled. I think I'm falling in love with this family, those girls, this life, and it terrifies me. Good, he said softly, because I'm falling too, and I don't want to do it alone. They stayed like that, hands linked across the desk, two people who'd clawed their way through wreckage and were trying to build something new. Outside, the mansion hummed with a life it hadn't known in years. Upstairs, two little girls dreamed in a language that finally belonged to them. A year later, the house looked completely different. Once silent halls rang with kids' voices. Rooms that had sat unused now held mats, sensory toys, and adaptive equipment. The Elena Grace Foundation had turned the estate into a demonstration center 3 days a week. Families visited with children facing similar diagnoses. Therapists came to train. Researchers observed how connection and structured play fed into neurodevelopment. Maya led a training in the main therapy room. 15 nurses watched as she signed with a boy born with cerebral palsy. She wore professional clothes now, hair tied back, posture confident. The goal isn't forcing milestones, she explained. It's building trust. When a child feels truly seen, they'll push themselves further than we ever could. Some nurses scribbled notes, others filmed on tablets. One asked about integrating music into sessions. Maya answered easily, drawing on the coursework she'd finally finished. At Nathan's insistence, she'd gone back and completed her nursing degree, graduating top of her class 3 months earlier. Through the window, Nathan watched proudly. He'd stepped away from the spotlight, happy to handle logistics while she became the public face. Rosa appeared with coffee. She's something special, the older woman said. Yes, Nathan agreed. She is. Planning to make it official, Rosa teased. Soon, he said, smiling. In the garden, Arya and Lyra played with their therapist. At 3.5, they were still petite but thriving. Arya could walk short distances unaided, using a walker for longer treks. Lyra's speech leapt forward every month. They'd invented a hybrid game, half tag, half conversation. Arya signed. Lyra spoke. Both dissolved into laughter. To strangers, they might look delayed. To anyone who remembered motionless cribs, they looked like living, walking proof that predictions weren't destiny. Dr. Adler visited that afternoon for a quarterly checkup. The man who once doubted Maya's observations now called her several times a year for advice. He tested reflexes, balance, response to commands, then met Nathan and Maya in the study. Expression bright. Remarkable, he said. Scans show continued growth in key neural pathways. Connections are strengthening rather than fading. At this pace, Arya may not need her walker by 5. Lyra's speech centers are more active than any case I've seen like hers. What changed your mind about all this? Maya asked. Watching them defy everything I thought I knew, he admitted. Medical school taught me physiology. It didn't teach me what love does to a brain. That was my blind spot. The paper we're publishing next month should open some minds. Your data is hard to argue with. After he left, Nathan and Maya stood at the window, watching the twins chase bubbles. Nathan cleared his throat. I have something for you, he said. He led her to the music room. On the piano sat a small velvet box. Her heart stuttered. Nathan, it's not what you think, he said. Not yet. He opened it to reveal an old brass key. worn from years of use. It belonged to Leela, he explained, to her mother's cottage in Vermont. She always planned to take the girls there someday, teach them to swim, pick berries, just let them be kids. It's beautiful, Maya murmured. It's yours. Ours, Nathan said, pressing it into her palm. I thought maybe we could go this summer, all of us. A family trip. The word family settled between them, real and solid. I'd like that, she said, voice soft. That night, they hosted a gala on the lawn. 500 guests milled beneath string lights, glasses clinking, donations flowing. The foundation had exceeded every estimate. 3 satellite centers opened. More than 200 therapists trained. Over 50 families reporting measurable gains. Yet the heart of it all remained these 2 children and this house. After dinner, Nathan took the microphone. The crowd fell quiet. Thank you for believing every child deserves a chance, he began. A year ago, I told you about 2 women, Lila and Margaret. Tonight, I want you to meet the real miracles. He turned toward the doors. Aria, Lyra, come on out. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Most people had only seen photos. The doors opened and the twins stepped out, holding hands. Aria in a red dress, Lyra in blue. They negotiated the steps slowly, but by themselves. Applause erupted. Some guests wiped tears. Children who hadn't been expected to walk or talk now stood calmly before hundreds of strangers. Nathan knelt. Maya joined him. The girls exchanged a look, some silent agreement passing between them. Lyra took the microphone. Hi, she said, in voice small but sure. I'm Lyra, this is Aria. Thank you for helping. More applause. Lyra raised her hand. The crowd quieted. Lots of people said we couldn't talk or walk, she continued. But Ma said we could, and Dada believed her. So now we can. Aria stepped forward, speaking and signing together. Love is best medicine. Ma says that. She's right. Together, they signed and said, thank you for helping other kids like us. The applause thundered. Nathan hugged them. Maya wrapped her arms around all 3. Cameras flashed, immortalizing the moment. Later, after the guests left and the girls slept, Nathan and Maya sat on the front steps, staring at the stars. This had once been the house of silence. Now it pulsed with life. Somewhere inside, 2 little girls who'd been written off whispered, Ma, Dada, love you, in their dreams. And if you've ever felt voiceless, their story is your reminder. Love listens, then teaches you how to speak. Lesson 1. Hope can wake up long, silent rooms. If you are in your late 60s or 70s, you may know what it feels like to sit beside a quiet bed and wonder if anything will ever change. Nathan had all the money a man could stack in a lifetime, but no real hope left in his heart. When Aria and Lyra lay stiff and silent, many of you would have understood his retreat into work and donations. Yet with one young woman's stubborn faith, that still house slowly filled with humming, clapping, and the first shaky dada. The lesson for our season of life is simple but fierce. As long as breath is in the body, you and the people you love are not finished stories. Lesson 2. Ordinary hands can deliver extraordinary healing. Those of us raised to respect diplomas on the wall know how hard it is to trust a simple housemaid over specialists from famous hospitals. But Maya brought something many experts quietly lose over the years: time, tenderness, and the belief that these girls were fully there. Older Americans know that kind of care. You gave it to parents with failing memories, spouses after surgery, neighbors after strokes. Maya reminded us that love plus patient attention can wake up pathways no machine ever touches. The lesson is not to reject medicine, but to remember that the most powerful treatment may begin with a warm voice and a hand that refuses to let go. Lesson 3. The legacy we leave is living, not marble. If you have grandchildren, you may look at Nathan and see your own fears. Will I leave money, or will I leave myself? He built wings on hospitals, but his real legacy began the night he sat on the nursery floor and tried to copy Maya's clumsy signs. When he stepped down from his company to stand beside her and those girls, he traded titles for relationship. Many of you have already learned this truth. No grandchild will remember the size of your portfolio, but they will never forget the hours you spent listening, holding, and believing in them. Our bodies may slow, our resumes may fade, yet the love we pour into the most fragile among us can outlive us by generations. Conclusion: a call to your season of life. If you have walked hospital halls and buried friends, this story is more than a pleasant miracle. It is your reminder that even now, your steady presence and brave, stubborn love can still rewrite the ending for someone who feels forgotten. Friends, when you hear how Nathan nearly gave up, how Maya kept showing up, and how those little girls learned to say ma and da after everyone said it was impossible, what does it stir in you? Have you ever seen a loved one surprise the doctors or felt hope come back when you thought the story was over? Share your experience in the comments, and let's learn from one another. If this touched your heart, please like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and pass it on so more families can find courage